Hi everybody, this is Maya Good, and this is a video about self-care as writers. I think this is really important for a lot of reasons. I'm making this video now because I've really been off social media for a couple weeks. I know people are wondering where I'm at, and really what it is I've had to do a lot of self-care. And it brought to mind a lot of issues I had in my late teens, early 20s, and the reasons why I gave up all art in the first place. And that has to do with a lot of the stereotypes around artists have mental illness and artists need to be moody in order to create art. And if you're depressed, being depressed is awesome because it makes you create better art, which is all a bunch of bullshit. Because frankly, having ongoing stress, anxiety, depression, just general unhealth is horrible for productivity. And it doesn't matter how great your one piece is if you are such a mess that that's the only piece you're able to create. And I want to write over long term. And I've been really struggling the past couple months with my writing. And it kind of came to a head when I got a day job. And when I got the day job, before I had the day job, I had been sleeping all willy-nilly, and I just assumed that I was staying awake at night and sleeping during the day, and it was no big deal. It was just because I was self-employed and my sleep schedule got out of whack. And then when I got a day job, I figured it would take a couple days to transition, and it didn't work out that way. As I switched, I should have felt fine, but I realized I never felt awake, ever. I was sleeping 9, 10 hours, but I was exhausted. I was unable to function. My writing was going to shit. I wasn't able to focus. And so I started really thinking back, and all the things that I had previously just written off as, well, I'm lazy, or the move, or stress, I recognized that I had been excessively sleeping for several years, and I just didn't recognize it. I just wrote it off as me being lazy or me having a flipped schedule, but it was much more than flipped. I actually was struggling to stay awake for more than 5 hours at a time, and because I didn't have to go anyplace to work, I was able to kind of avoid it and just not notice it. And so suddenly I was having to work 8 hours and I couldn't stay awake. It was really bad. And so over the past couple weeks, I decided that I needed to wrangle my health back in shape because there's only a few things that can do that. And I wanted to schedule an appointment with a naturopath, but if I was going to pay money to see a naturopath, I kind of wanted to knock off all the obvious things that could be causing this, so I wasn't wasting my money. And I quit smoking 2 weeks ago. I quit drinking coffee last week. The coffee was much harder than the smoking, to be entirely honest. I've quit smoking for very long periods of time before, but quitting coffee is hard for me. I love coffee, not just how it makes me feel, but I genuinely like coffee. I grew up close to a coffee roaster, and I approach coffee the way a lot of people approach wine, and giving it up is a huge sacrifice for me. But coffee drives your cortisol through the roof, so does smoking. So I gave up both of them. I gave up sugar for a time, but I went ahead and let it back in while I was dealing with all the withdrawal and everything from giving up the coffee. And I figure I can only get rid of so many vices at once. I need to set that aside. And that will be happening in the next couple of weeks. I've also started taking a lot of vitamins. I've been taking vitamin D, a multivitamin. I've been taking herbs that are good for supporting your adrenals. I've been taking an herbal tincture that's good for stress. Pardon my living, all the background noise. Sorry about that. So these are all things that are going to help me with my cortisol, but I'm noticing it's also helping me with my mood. I've always struggled with depression and anxiety. I have anxiety attacks. I don't go out in groups anymore. It was much better when I was younger. It got really bad during my last relationship, and now it's like I'm learning to deal with it, but I do suffer from anxiety and depression, and I've At various points in my life, I've taken medication. Various points in my life, I've used meditation, whatever it is. And since dropping the coffee and the cigarettes and taking vitamins and these herbs, I'm noticing that it's beginning to lift, and I'm now able to look and see just how unproductive I've been with my writing. Even when I think I'm being productive, I haven't been. And so this is a reminder to us, especially in this new world that we're all facing. And as artists, we have this opportunity to really help the world, but we can't do that if we're not taking care of ourselves, if we're exhausted, if we're on a ton of drugs, whatever. And I whatever your vice, I'm surrounded by artists. I see the way many artists live their lives. And this isn't about judgment, it's about recognizing things that are happening in your life that are making you less productive. And if I want to revise my 2 novels and get them out to agents, if I want to write this pen name to support my literary fiction, if I want to eventually not have to have a desk job, but really make my living from writing novels, I need to be productive. And I can't be productive if I'm depressed and unhealthy and barely able to stay awake. And so part of self-care has been, changing my diet and getting rid of these vices. But part of that self-care has been stepping away from some of the social media a little bit. And just for this crazy time right now, it's really hard to be on social media with everything that's happening right now as a conscious person. I look out and I see the changes that are happening socially, and I see the changes that are happening politically and within my country, and I'm filled with dread and fear and sadness, just a deep sadness that us as humans have made the choices that we've made when we're capable of so much better. And constantly being bombarded with that on Twitter and Facebook, I just needed a break. And I think focusing on my writing has been really important. My poetry in particular, I've been writing a lot of really bad poetry all week. None of it's very good, but at least it gets the emotions out, which I think is important. And these are all rough drafts that I can revise and make good. My poems are never good to begin with. And so there's just a lot going on, and I'm considering a lot of choices and where I need to be to write the kinds of books that I want to write, where I can be to write the kind of books that I want to write. I love New Orleans. I was planning on traveling, and I came here and I fell in love with it. And I'm seeing the changes that are happening politically, and I'm starting to wonder if I'm going to be able to write fiction that deals with politics here. And I don't know. And I'm noticing that people are kind of starting to self-censor themselves a little bit online. And that's uncomfortable to think about as an artist. And so I'm starting to toss around in my head the idea that maybe I do need to leave, which is really sad because this is the first place I've moved to that has felt like home. I love New Orleans. I love New Orleans in a way that I never thought I would love a city. But there's stuff I need to write, and if writing it here is not safe, then I need to go someplace else. And I'm starting to think within the next couple of years it may not be a safe place. And this is also really getting into the business that I'm starting. The urgency of it is becoming much more important with the talks of defunding art funding and cracking down of artists from various countries trying to come in, and just it's starting to get a little worrisome. And I've never really publicly disclosed what the business is, and I'm not going to get in detail, but it is a model. It is an idea to bring artists and art grants, private art funding together so that artists can create art without the burden of having to appeal to governments or having to starve. And so I'm sitting here and I'm just feeling all these changes, and I can't do anything about them if I don't feel healthy. And so that's where I'm at right now. I know this was really rambly and all over the place, and that's just kind of where my head is at right now. I'm kind of rambling all over the place. But I do have a lot of ideas going on right now around my writing, and I'm just trying to figure out the best way to approach it. And I'm going to leave you with a really bad draft of a poem. It's bad. I don't write very good poetry, I have to admit. I write much better prose. And as more than one of my critique partners has said, you really should write screenplays. I think you'd be even better at screenplays, which I'm not sure how I should take that. If my novels are so bad, they make you think I should write screenplays. But I know that's not how they mean it, but it's very cute. And it is something I hear frequently. So this poem doesn't have a title. And it is what it is. And it's not very good yet, but it will be. This is how they all start, right? They all start just a jumble of words that create an idea and you don't know where it's going. They haven't killed us since he was elected, the men dressed in blue. Now that the spirit is gone, can't let the niggers get too uppity, they used to say. And on that note, I'm going to let you go. Ciao.